on to our next technology presentation. The topic for this session is disrupting the BFSI ecosystem with advanced maps and deep tech. Our speaker for this session is Mr. Ankit Bhatt, Chief Strategy Officer at MapMyIndia. Mr. Ankit Bhatt has 11 plus years with MapMyIndia. He holds a bachelor's degree in electronics and instrumentation engineering from the Birla Institute of Technology, Science, Pilani 2010. Mr. Ankit drives the strategy of the core location platform products and its growth, sales management, company-wide marketing, and international expansion through our international brand, Mapples. He also represents the company at various industry conclaves and seminars. Can we please put our hands together and welcome Mr. Bhatt up on stage, please?
Good afternoon, everyone. And I hope all of you guys have had a great day till now, some amazing talks, and a very nice lunch also. And I think this is a great time to kind of talk about something different. There has been a burst of technology usage over the last couple of years, especially as COVID has hit in, and most of our systems have changed, most of the ways in which we do business or we as consumers live our lives has changed. That's paved the way for many different and new technologies, especially deep technologies and AI technologies that have kind of transformed our businesses and even our consumer lives. I want to start this session by just asking everyone a simple question, and we'll get a raise of hands to get a sense check. How many of you have used maps in your consumer lives? Raise of hands. Okay, so almost 80–90% you have used maps as consumers, and mostly predominantly might be the map that you have on your phone. How many of you have used maps or location technologies in your businesses? Okay, so that's, I can already see that drop, so that's about 30% or something of that sort. But definitely these technologies are being used a lot more. One interesting fact that will kind of astonish the crowd here also is that the map that businesses use in India is not the same as the map that businesses use as consumers. And most of that technology is different. And the source of that technology is also different, and that's where I'm coming to introduce our company and our brand. So I represent MapMyIndia. MapMyIndia is India's largest mapping location technology company. And we power almost every service, consumer service, or automotive vehicle out there with our location technologies, whether it's cars, millions of cars or bikes with our location and telemetry services, or it's large apps, whether it's in the fintech space like PhonePe, Paytm, with location SDKs embedded that are powering their services, or it's also delivery services that make packages reach you in time, like Amazon or Flipkart. So there is a lot of AI and deep tech happening in the back end that makes sure that these consumer services reach you, and MapMyIndia plays a pivotal role in it. We as a company are about 1,000 people strong, based out of Delhi, Bangalore, and we have international offices. And we just went public last year in December 2021. It was the third most successful IPO in the country. And we've kind of been away from the typical VC model, and we're a profitable company. So we've done something very different in India and the world over, at least in our industry of location and maps. So what I'm going to talk today most of the, I'm going to focus on is how we've used these technologies to help financial services, especially in the banking and the insurance space, and what kind of use cases have led to their businesses being more operationally efficient, or get more business insight, or take their data, combine that with real-world data, and kind of just drive big, huge business decisions, whether it's around risk or whether it's on customer intelligence. So I'll set some context, and I'll get into some of those use cases. So to set some context, I think one of the very important things to know about is that in our economy, primarily in India, the percentage of as a percentage of GDP, the industry still has a lot of growth. left. And another thing that we think that can fuel this growth is a lot of these AI and deep tech technologies, so that you can know more about consumers, know more about physical spaces. Um, and if you look at other developed economies or developing economies, we actually kind of rank somewhere in the middle. Even in terms of insurance, as a percentage of like per capita GDP, our penetrations are still quite low, and that's bound to rise. That's kind of brings me to the main topic of how and what all best practices are being used by companies in the financial space, and how are they utilizing location and maps for different processes. Whether it is enriching their customer data, therefore knowing more about customers, like if a customer lives in a high affluence zone, are they living in, are they living around certain areas that are busy, that are not busy, a developing area that's gotten, a lot more development over the last, 3-4 years. So all of this data helps in taking decisions. Um, Even using using the data to basically drive field operations or other operations like verification. So a bunch of simple questions like what physical clusters are negative or delinquent. In high volume consumer loan scenarios, there are institutions that are actually breaking the country into grids, small grids of like 10 meters or 100 meters square, and understanding what is the delinquency behavior all across the country. Also, how to underwrite risk and what is the risk profile in different areas, especially what is the physical risk that occurs in those areas, whether it's there are earthquake zones, there are seismic zones, there are flood-prone zones. So all of that data and that history exists at a very granular level. And how do you make these decisions more hyperlocal and smart? Another big, thing that we've ended up solving for almost every institution is around addresses. Addresses in India, as you know, are very unstructured. Most of the time, consumers write their addresses in different ways, and that results in, in many differences. So if you get a bad address, your collections face an issue. Your just verification of if a field person is reaching there faces an issue. So how do you make sure addresses are collected well using this AI? Are checked if the addresses are correct or not. We've performed national-wide projects with even the ministries to make sure that addresses with, whether it's GSTN or whether it's CBDT, their crores of addresses are, are correct, are not dubious, and also the capture processes going forward from consumers are more AI-based. So I'm going to talk through a couple of use cases, and I'll start with the banking services, and then I'll get to insurance also. So predominantly on the banking services side, one is if you look at the asset side, and then I'll come to liabilities. But on the asset side, as you're verifying more and more consumers, again, the first thing that comes through is how do I capture location? I have a location from a field person, and then I have a customer enter an address. Are they the same? Are they not? How do I know? Is there a science, or is there some machine learning that can tell me that this is actually correct or not? So we do solve for that. And not only that, if you want to completely eliminate a physical process, there are digital techniques to know the location of a consumer and ascertain whether the the application or the home location that he's actually given or address is same as the location that's coming in from a phone or from the location that is reported. So there are ways of even completely eliminating physical verification, which we have implemented with new age companies like Navi, or there are many other companies that are actually implementing this to know that the address is actually accurate or not. Also in credit risk assessment, so as you're assessing risk and as you're disbursing more loans, what are the areas that these consumers reside in? Are they slums? Are they outside areas? Are they high, is it a high net worthy area? Is it a busy area? So that also kind of, builds into your data science model as you're kind of remitting more and more. Even for debt collections, actually, this is where you get a lot of operational efficiency. It's literally, this is the easiest use case where as you implement location AI, your system literally runs like the backend of Uber or Ola. Think of it that way. As you implement workforce automation, but based on location, all the beats planned, all the live monitoring of, of the people that are either collecting or verifying is going into the system. And it's literally churning out simple routes or simple beats. And those beats compared to something that's manually done is very different. And there's literally a lot of, lot that you can do with less resources, or you can actually collect more. So there is literally a huge physical advantage of using workforce platforms on any of your physical processes, whether it's directly through the financial entity or is through agencies. Coming to the liability side, uh, one of the biggest questions that we get from on this front is, where do I set up more branches? Where do I set up more ATMs? Where are my current customers? Where can I find a similar type of customers? If it's mid-affluence, it's high affluence, whatever category that you're trying to pertain to. And also, what do the branches do? Like, can the branches have a list of leads, a list of businesses, or a list of localities or buildings to go to where they can actually sell? So that hyperlocal intelligence is something that we do provide to banks right now, where in some cases we've actually gone as deep as saying that this is the catchment of 3 kilometers from that branch. These are the houses that exist there. These are the number of people that live there. These are the different businesses that are there that are either automotive repair shops or they're other types of SMEs. So that basically gives the branch hyperlocal intelligence that you can basically know that, okay, this is what the market is about and this is what they can actually do. So it's not basis, it's actually data based, and it's actually basis a lot of real-time information that they can use to grow that local business. I'll get to some other use cases also. So from an insurance perspective, again, we see a lot of gains if there is workforce automation. Again, simply from a, whether it's from a sales perspective or even from a verification perspective, either at the call center or in the field, the way these platforms are implemented can result in a lot of gains. And even from a customer onboarding perspective, we've seen that, again, address capture. The same story, like addresses are captured, they are not correct, or after they're captured, no one knows where this place actually exists, or it's right or not, or the address is dubious or not. So again, simple systems to just run the address through, through a tokenizer or through a AI. It'll actually tell you if the address is real or not, or if it's not, what should the actual address be. And one of the main use cases in insurance that we've seen is around risk. So having a whole profile of the country and different risk factors at a very granular grid level, which is to know that what is the, again, similar cases, but that's specifically for general insurance, where what is the, what are the basically risk indexes at all of these different micro levels around seismic zones or around floods and stuff like that. So I'll show a couple of videos on how we've implemented these systems. These are actually live systems with some really large consumer bases being accessing this. So let me try. Okay, I don't think so. There's any video. There are some videos embedded there, and they're not being able to play. But I'll just talk through it. These are systems that are implemented by GSTN. That's one of actually the largest projects we implemented, where this was done actually 2-3 years back. They had 40 crore addresses to basically check if these addresses are dubious, are they correct, are they not, what is the geolocation, and what are the different patterns we found in those addresses. And it was very interesting. There was a lot of addresses that are actually in, like the building we would know the building is only a 2-story building, but there are 40, businesses registered there. So there are these flags that we actually gave them from that data, just from address data, that's it. And obviously we had a lot of data internally to tell them that these things are not possible. So we are able to like analyze and tell them those flags, and that was actually pretty interesting uh, from our experience perspective. And also, how do they capture addresses going forward? So we actually implemented a full AI or machine learning based form that as a customer types in, you actually automatically understand the intent and what they're trying to type, and it captures the locality or the house number automatically. This is a address standardizer that we have. If you run any address to it, it will first tell you if it's urban or rural. It will break the address down to its locality, village, or street, or house number, and it will also standardize it to tell you that if this actually exists in reality or not. Yeah, so we would basically know that how India, so the way we build our maps is we know that there are 7,500 towns, there are 20 to 25 metropolitan areas, and there are 7 lakh villages. So we know how India is divided into urban and rural, and basically we would say that this exists as a rural address versus a urban address. Yeah, this is by census. But obviously, we maintain the latest map and the latest data. So we would update everything on top of what is there already. And this is one example where you will see that at a point, you can look at the number of, and this is just 10% of what we can tell you for literally one lat long in the country. Uh, this is a point somewhere in Delhi. And if you look at that, it'll tell you the city, district, state, pin, street, locality, POI. POI means point of interest, which is a landmark. The distance from the POI, which is 99 meters from a particular point of interest. The street distance, and a formatted address. This is only 10% of what we can tell you. There's a lot more data which can tell you how affluent it is, what's the literacy population around it, what businesses exist around it. Even a picture, a street side image of how it looks. And in some cases, we also have drone imagery. So you can actually see 10 centimeter detailed imagery, which we are expanding very quickly. And you'll see it in most parts of Gurgaon and some other parts of the country. But we are basically capturing parts of India in literally in 10 centimeter accuracy. That's far greater than what Google has ever done or will do anywhere in the world. So it's literally happening in India and across the world. No one has released 10 centimeter imagery on a consumer platform. And 10 centimeter, you can literally zoom into the, onto the hood of a car or a rickshaw, and you can see it. So that's how detailed that imagery is. Even from allocation, basic allocation, like leads come in, requests come in, where should that be allocated? What is the nearest branch, or what is the nearest resource? These are simple things that already exist on our phones. We use them on a daily basis when you book a taxi or you book a ride. These are very easy APIs and easy implementations that you can already implement, and you'll already get operational benefits. I can talk more about from a insurance perspective. We are actually generating even NatCat reports of certain areas or of certain micro areas. And I talked about negative area mapping, which is essentially but that's for high volume consumer loans, that as you get a lot of these customers and delinquent customers, we can actually create a data science of a map of your delinquency. And as you get more and more requests, we can flag them through our systems. Even from a property valuation perspective, we actually can give you data to automatically model what the value of that property will be. There are a lot of SIs, a lot of partners in our ecosystem that we work with to provide this information. And a NatCat analysis, which basically goes through many, many data, whether it's hurricane or drought, all of that past data coming through. And all of this data actually comes from ISRO. We have a public-private partnership with ISRO where we provide them with all our technologies, and they provide us with humongous amounts of Earth observation data that that we wouldn't otherwise get access to. And that Earth observation data has historical and real-time data coming in right now. There are many other use cases, whether it's around branch performance or expansion, even consumer behavior, we have a bunch of data points around what consumers do in certain areas basis their movement. So real-time consumer movement aggregated to tell that this is where consumers would spend time in the afternoon, or this is where consumers would move to in the evening. So even that would give some kind of high-level idea of what would be consumer traffic or vehicular traffic. I'll kind of skip through all of this. And field ops. Field ops, I think, is like I mentioned and reiterate, it's kind of the easiest thing to implement to implement maps and location. And in that also, there are many like nuances that make it more and more accurate and better. This is kind of a dashboard that someone would see as they're monitoring hundreds of people across the country. Yeah, and through that you can also assign automatic tasks or tasks on the go or pre-planned tasks. Yeah. Another use case that we implemented lately was around how do you use location to power hyperlocal messaging and communication. As, for example, as consumers are present in a particular area, you can actually send them, and if you have a consumer app that's used for payments or for loyalty, you can actually send them customized messages basis their actual location. And that results in more engagement with the brand. We had implemented this in case of a large NBFC. And also from a cash van perspective, we had a large deployment where all the cash vans were tracked, and that whole system was feeding into a central system of a bank. And we were able to like optimize and see, in real time if there is less cash in an ATM and what needs to be done. So even that kind of system was implemented. So that's all for my presentation, and I would love to open it up for any questions, thoughts, and thanks for that question in the middle. I hope I answered it well. But yeah, open to chat after the talk also. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would request you to please remain behind, Mr. Bhatt. And may I request Mr. Krishna Kumar A, Chief Manager, IT Dhanlakshmi Bank, to please present a memento as a token of appreciation to Mr. Ankit Bhatt, Chief Strategy Officer, MapMyIndia.